Okay. Okay, it says I'm now live. This is going to be interesting. Well, what do we talk about? Well, this is basically a test. So, I guess there's tons of things that you can actually talk about, especially in the Ibmore channel. Um, Lots of stuff that's been going on. We can talk about Hillary Clinton and Bernie Sanders. We can talk about Donald Trump, which a lot of people are talking about being so-called the Hitler of the United States. At least that's what they're trying to call him. But let's see if I can find this event live so I can see if there's anybody in the comment section. Hold on. And not seeing anything. Then give me a second. This is why you do test. To get all the bugs worked out. I don't know how people do. They don't explain this very well. No, there's the chat. I see it. Here we go. And it says, say something. This is going to be a very interesting way to do things. Yeah, okay. Here we are. Okay, figured it out now. Okay, all right, I need to stop reading. Empty air. Let's say something. It's funny how you're talking about men's problems, you get very few comments from women. But when you start talking about women directly, even though it's on a men's channel, I don't know how the hell they find you. But they do, and they drop in the same stupid comments over and over again about you can't criticize us until you get the community together, which I always find funny. They can criticize us even though they haven't gotten the community together, and they constantly do it. But the thing is, we can't criticize them until we get the community together. In other words, we have to Not only correct what we're doing, but also correct what they're doing. Before they will actually straighten up and do right. In other words, we're responsible for not only what we do, but also what they do, which kind of blows my mind. And like I think I pointed out in communicating with women, the problem with women and black women in particular is they just cannot accept any type of criticism, constructive or destructive. They cannot take any kind of criticism. They can't take any kind of blame. They blow a gasket. They get emotional. It's got to be somebody else's fault. We're doing the best that we can, even though the statistics always back it up and says, no, you're not. I mean, there's statistics, and I'm gonna put it in video form. I got some of the material, and I just haven't figured out how to do it. But I'm gonna call it Black Fukushima. Now, if anybody knows anything about Fukushima, it should, because it's probably the most famous nuclear disaster in the history of the world, to where they basically destroyed, a whole city area, basically, a good tenth of Japan with nuclear waste, and they basically poisoned a lot of the Pacific Ocean, to where the radioactivity is so bad it's actually traveling across the Pacific Ocean to the United States, and you have radioactive debris and radioactive seafood all the way in California and in Washington State. That's how bad it is. But the reason I was going to name it Black Fukushima is because the Japanese government is actually saying that it isn't a problem. They're saying that there is no nuclear radiation, and the sicknesses that the people have that are within the town are caused by stress. In other words, it's self-imposed. So it doesn't matter if your hair is falling out or your nose is bloody or that you're getting skin spots or tumors. That's from stress. We're denying that there is radiation, and they're forcing those people to go back into their city basically to die. And I look at that with the gender dynamic between the black male and the black female, where everybody knows it's a problem. Everybody knows that the situation is toxic and it's unlivable and it's unmanageable. But they want the black men to go back into the community, put up with the same crap that they've been putting up with for the last 50 years, and basically go in there to basically not do a physical death, but a spiritual death, a moral death. Because just like the Japanese government, they can't clean up the nuclear waste. They either can or they won't clean up the nuclear waste. So they're going to double down on just denying it, that it's not there. Same thing black women are doing. They're just denying that there's a problem. They know it's a problem, but the thing is, they can't or won't do anything to correct it. But what they don't want to happen is the black men to leave the toxic environment. So when black men complain, just like in if you complain about Fukushima radiation in Japan, you can be jailed. They can take your money away. They silence you. Same thing with the black community. If you complain about black women, what are they trying to do? They're trying to go after you, trying to take your money away. They deny it's happening. They shame you. So no matter how it makes you sick or how it makes you disgusted or how it's untenable, what do they just tell you? They tell you to man up, you got to do this anyway. So it doesn't matter how much it costs you in child support. how many marriages they blow up, how bad their attitude is. It doesn't matter. They want you to go back into the toxic environment that they refuse to help clean up and for you to deal with it. Now, since there's been YouTube and since there's been Facebook, and I think it started with Facebook, I think YouTube kind of came later because just like with me, when I first got on Facebook, I think it was about 6 years ago, you would see all those memes that would come through about what a good man is and what a good man should do and all that. And most times black men would absolutely kind of ignore it. Okay, you know what? I'm not going to say anything, even though I don't agree with it, since they're not saying anything bad about black men. I'm not going to protest it. I'm just going to let it go by, even though these women are on my Facebook's friends list. But the thing is, that wasn't good enough. Then they started bashing black men directly with each other, sending their messages back and forth and posting all kind of negative stuff and negative feminist stuff. And black men basically got tired. They said, look, I understand how you feel. And I understand how you feel about the men in your life or your men in general. But the thing is, I'm a man and I'm on your Facebook's friends list, kind of watch your tone. I don't enjoy seeing this kind of stuff on my timeline. But, black women, they try to shame you and they double down on it, right? So it gets worse. They put up more stuff, more negative stuff. And again, black men say like, hey, you know what, sister, I don't feel like arguing with you. This is negative stuff. I would appreciate you kind of tone this down and not put it up on my timeline until it got to the point where men said, you know what, the hell with it. So men got to the point where they were actually going in and they're actually rebutting what black women were putting up in the comments section. That's where basically the gender war really started on Facebook. And so men started collecting stories, world hip hop about black women doing negative stuff. And they started, starting their own little groups. Like one good one is Black Men Vent, where they basically start going in on black women and the stuff that they did, the negative stuff they did. And all of a sudden, black women, since women in general cannot stand criticism, especially negative criticism, man, black women blew a gasket. They basically blew a gasket. Oh my God, they hate us. Oh my God, they, just because they talk about our weaves and we like our weaves, only black men would say anything because they hate us, even though we wear the weaves for the men, which everybody knows that's bullshit. Black women want attention. That's all that they've ever want, just like any other woman. Attention is food. And what do black women feast on? Attention, positive or negative. And you know what? I'm beginning to believe that black women really feed on negative attention. Now, you can praise her up and down, call her a goddess, call her a queen, and she'll like it, and she may even throw you a few bucks. But man, if you really want to get her attention, say something negative. Boom. It'll blow up. But that's where the gender war started. And I think I was listening to one blog talk radio program, and they were talking about how the internet basically brought out into the open how black men actually felt about black women. Not the positive stuff, but the negative stuff. The critique that black men had about black women, which had been basically silenced because you really couldn't see it in a newspaper. You really couldn't see it in on a TV program or on a radio program, because basically you're killing your money if you talk bad about black women. So the YouTube and basically the online social media started being talking amongst themselves, and the negative things that black men thought or felt that was wrong with the black community and black society. That's true. That's true. Nobody gave black men a platform because there's no money in it. Women basically in America control 80% of the disposable income. In black women, we know it's 80% of the disposable income because they make half the money. They get child support, they get alimony, they get all that stuff. They get the majority of the government handout program. So black women have a lot of disposable money. And the easiest way to kill your commercial venture is to basically stop black women closing up their purses. So that's why they always think twice before they give a public platform to black men, especially when it's a negative critique of black women. So the only space that we actually have is where? Online and on YouTube. And the funny thing is that they've been talking about black men going to prison and going to jail and shooting each other and selling drugs and all the other negative stuff that black men do, which everybody admits that's what goes on. There's a lot of reasons why it goes on, but everybody admits it goes on. Even black men admit it goes on. It's something that's going on, wrong with the community. And for the last 30, 40 years there, you've tried, they said black men don't do anything about it. But black men have tried to use sports. Black men have tried boys and girls clubs to keep black youth off the street. Black men have tried rites of passage. Well, yeah, they've had the black malfunction goes way back. Like I said in a previous video, the black malfunction goes all the way back to 1890 under Du Bois. He pointed that out in the Philadelphia Negro. But the thing is, it was basically the Philadelphia Negro was the precursor to what urban black community would look like. Because when you get on the farm or when you're on the farm in the rural districts, black women needed black men to survive, so they had to cooperate. They didn't have any choice because guess what? They would starve. Though farming is, especially back then, was very labor intensive and was very hard. A lot of black men died early deaths in the South. There's very few black men that live past 50 in the South because they basically worked themselves to death. And black women would have followed suit if they didn't have black men. There's two things that save black women from dying, especially in the South. It was black men and having children. They were able to produce hands. But when they moved to the urban cities, they could get hired by white people. They could be domestics. They could work in. They could be seamstresses. They could open up basically female businesses where there wasn't as much work for black men. And you would see, Du Bois noticed that when black women had the upper hand and their man wasn't doing so good in the urban city, she didn't hesitate to put him out. No, she didn't keep him around because she needed a husband. If he wasn't valuable and he couldn't bring in an income, she put him out. So it's nothing new. That's something that Moynihan pointed out in the Negro Family when he did the report, that this is nothing new. If you couldn't get the black men to provide, the black woman was going to get rid of him. Once she had her children, she was, if she had an alternative, she was going to get rid of him. That's just it. And basically, you can actually go back and you can track the the marriage rate, the out of wedlock rate, especially out of wedlock rate, back to government policies. Your out of wedlock rate did not get out of hand until 1937, when FDR changed the law about welfare. Before it went to basically white widows and orphans. So in other words, if you're a white woman, and your husband died and you had children, the federal government, because of the federal government will actually come in and put you on welfare. That's where the welfare actually came from. But during the Depression, there were so many men that left home to go find work that it caused a problem. So they changed the law to where you didn't have to be a widow. If you could prove that you were abandoned by your husband, if you were married, you had kids, and you were abandoned by your husband, they would actually give you welfare. That's what initially the AFDC was actually put in place for. And right after 1937, you saw the black out of wedlock rate. And I'm eventually going to put this up. It's there. I got this thick book talking about social service and the AFDC and the laws that they passed. But in 1937, they allowed for abandonment for to get welfare, and you saw the out of wedlock rates. I think it was before 1937. I think the out of wedlock rate for black women was, if I'm not mistaken, I think it was like either 9 or it was 11%. And in 1937, when they passed the law, immediately it started spiking up. And by the time 1965 rolled around, it was at 25%. So it went all the way from it actually almost tripled from 1937 to 30 years from 1937 to 1965. It almost tripled. And there was a warning about welfare, which was a poverty program. Okay, it says, plus Manginas come to black women's defense and will kill you for criticizing local black women. And true force loneliness is the punishment for a black man who dare tell the truth outside the internet. I think it's more economic than anything else. You can piss a black woman off, she'll still screw you. She'll still screw you. You might not get as much, but you can always find a black woman to have sex with you. If you're a halfway decent looking guy. They won't tell you that. They'll be pissed off with you, but there's one thing about black women. They don't really, I wouldn't say they hold back the sex, but the thing is, they'll still mess with you. They'll still mess with you. But what Moynihan found out, and I may have put this in a previous video. What Moynihan was warned about was that that there was this trend for black women to push their men out of the family and claim abandonment. That's how come you even though there was you had a high out of wedlock rate, you still had a high marriage rate. The marriage rate was still 90% because a black woman couldn't get any benefits if she was never married. If you had a bastard kid out of wedlock or illegitimate birth, you couldn't get no money. You were on your own. You and your kid were poor. You basically starved because there's nothing there for you. You had never gotten married. So if you got pregnant, what you needed to do, at least for the first child, you need to marry that guy. You marry him, stay married for a couple years, you push him out of the home, then you pushed him out of the home, then you could claim abandonment, that my husband left me and I'm abandoned, and I abandoned he abandoned me, and I don't have any other means. Then you could start collecting a pension, start collecting the paycheck. That's how come your marriage rate was so high amongst black people, especially amongst higher than actually white folks. The black marriage rate was above 90%, whereas back before the 60s, the white marriage rate was only about 80%. So yeah, but your mama and your female family will cut you off. Never mind female friends. Female family will ostracize you. Good luck. And Thanksgiving dinner if you got caught criticizing black women. Um, you know what? Uh, that's what black women say, and black women will. Black women love to fight. Black women love to. They love to fight. They love to fight, and if they're fighting with you, if you're saying something bad about black women, like I said, you're gonna lose some of them, but there's always gonna be one that's gonna lay down with you. She's always, there's. If you notice, even on the internet, even on YouTube, there's always a certain amount of females that will argue with you, that will fight with you, and they will continually fight with you, over and over and over again. Because I've known too many of guys that would criticize, they would say black women ain't shit, and say, well, how do you get your women? Well, I just tell them they ain't shit. and either they gonna mess with me or they aren't. And there are a certain amount of women that will mess with black women. White women probably wouldn't do it, but black women, yeah. If it ain't never stopped them from laying down with you. They might not marry you. They won't give you any money, but they'll still come around and they'll still lay with you, which is a strange paradox about black women. Black women have some strange habits. Let's put it that way. They have some very, very strange habits. What else am I going to talk about? Oh, upcoming. Like I say, my black Fukushima video. What I actually found out, which is shocking to me. What I actually found out, I was looking at, I was researching some black statistics about the black birth rate, and now normally they don't put these two things together. They don't put the out of wedlock rate and the abortion rate together, along with the amount of along with the black birth rate. But if you add the yearly black birth rate up, or the black pregnancy rate up, that they can actually document, okay, they estimate somewhere a little over a million black pregnancies a year. Okay, I think it was 1,064,000, something like that, 1,064,000, somewhere around in there. And out of 1,064,000 black pregnancies, and this was shocking to me, your black birth rate was, I think your black birth rate was around, I want to say, yeah, that's true. Black woman is God. Well, black women must be a vengeful God. But the black pregnancy rate was like a 1,064,000, and I think out of that, the black birth rate, I mean the black legitimate birth rate was only like 178,000 legitimate black births, where you actually had married women with their husbands having children. Okay, and your illegitimate rate, or your out of wedlock birth rate, birth total was like 440,000 out of wedlock births, which is like, say, if you think about it, that's like 70% of the total, right? Of that actually born. And what's even more shocking is that you had like a 420,000 abortions. So basically, 40%, like 40% of black pregnancies are terminated in abortion. 40% end up in what we call illegitimate children, out of wedlock children, and only that was ghastly. Only 178,000. Only 17% are born with a married couple, and that was just stunning to me. I couldn't believe it. More than 80%, 82%, 82% of black women getting pregnant are either in an out of wedlock or in an abortion. Like I say, we know that there was an old football term, and I think it was I can't remember the coach's name, but I think he was I think he coached for Alabama. It might be Bear Bryant, when they talked about the forward pass, and they said only three things can happen with a forward pass, and two of them are bad. Okay, if you have a forward pass, it's either caught, it's either intercepted, or it's incomplete. Two things are bad, and that's the same thing with a black woman getting pregnant. Only three things can happen, and two of them are bad. And the funny thing is that the two things that are bad are dominant. I mean, they're not even close. They're not even close. And the thing is, nobody will put this together. Nobody will even talk about it. They'll talk about one or they'll talk about the other, but they won't even combine them, because if they combine them, it would be, I mean, what would black women say? They would lose. Black women would basically lose their shit. Black women in the Caribbean and Europe are no different than the USA. It is a world problem. It is a worldwide problem. In fact, the largest for the highest out of wedlock birth rate in the world for a country, I'm not talking about a particular segment, but for a country, is actually Iceland. I think it's like 66% of the children are born out of wedlock in Iceland, even though it's basically a small country. But the thing is, as a culture, the out of wedlock birth rate is 66%. In the Nordic countries like Norway and not Switzerland, but Sweden, it's 55%. It's basically telling you that the Western society and the Industrial Revolution is slowly killing marriage. And I think black folks are, just because we're the so-called canaries in the coal mines, we're just on the bleeding edge. Okay, you said that's why I find it comical when you see black males from black males come from the U.S. coming over here, finding blacks wives. Yeah, well, that's true. But the thing is that the reason the reason that black men are leaving, the reason the black men want to escape what we call the matrix in the United States, is because black male female gender relationships are so damn toxic. They're so toxic. I mean, basically, if you're not having sex with a black woman, basically it's an adversarial relationship. It's a constant adversarial relationship. And that has a lot to do not only with the United States, but the thing is that the pathology that we carry with the gender dynamics coming out of slavery that's never been fixed, which is something that Du Bois said, that Moynihan said in '65, is something that William Julius Wilson said in 1987. It's something that Barack Obama basically said, basically, in the 2000s, it's the same thing. It's something that never got fixed. And that's something that, okay, Alpha Logic, you live in, you from the Caribbean, you live in Europe. Do you live in the UK? Are you part of the Commonwealth? Did you move to the UK? Or are you living in, where the Caribbeans? Normally, that's where you guys wind up. Um, it's either that or France, if you're from Haiti. Oh, Netherlands. Okay. Amsterdam. Are you permanent, or you know? Did you get married? What? So do you? Made by Ruben says, do you think black women were always this adversarial, even in Africa? I've been to the continent a few times, and there is that a little bit. They're not adversarial, but I'm saying is like they're more aggressive. You can notice the aggression even in places like Ghana or one of the other countries. They're not submissive, but the thing is that their culture kind of tamps a lot of that down. Okay, it's a very strong family dynamic where male power is really respected, because you have to, because they're a third world they're not third world, they're a developing country, and you need male labor, and women would literally starve if it wasn't for black males. So the only way to get black males to actually go to work and work hard is basically respect male power, and the thing is that the families reinforce this, so it's a different culture. Whereas you come into the West, there is no family structure to reinforce this. Like, it used to be, remember the old saying about shotgun marriages and stuff like that? The family reinforced black women staying in marriages. The whole culture basically reinforced women to be submissive, and women to stay in their marriage, and basically women to basically keep, basically take the provision, take the protection, and shut the fuck up, basically. But the Western feminism, and the Industrial Revolution kind of blew all that apart after World War II. Yeah, we get him. I don't. What the thing is. I think as we become mechanized, and that spreads, because you're starting to see that in India, and you basically seeing that in China. So it's not a a black or white thing. It's not even a cultural thing. I think it's that Western civilization, once things become mechanized and urbanized, women don't need you anymore, and women have their own biological imperatives, and their thing is to get provision and protection for their offspring, and that's a biological imperative from them. So they're just acting on their biological imperative, and they basically put up with you to get their biological imperative satisfied. Now that doesn't have anything to do with sex, because black, if you turn the black woman on, and black women are since they're more aggressive, they're pretty much upfront about that. If they like you and they want to give you some, they're gonna give you some, okay, because that's what they want to do. Now them staying with you and being loyal to you, that's another story. Men need a 5-year reset. Celibacy, um, take the distraction away, and build a financial legacy. That's, well, you know what? I would say, well, men need to become celibate, or if not being celibate, what they need to do is you need to get a hold of your sexual desire. That is the biggest, the most. That's the biggest thing for any man, any male, because what always gets us in trouble? It's not our eyes, it's our dick. I'm dating an Ethiopian woman right now. Sweetest woman ever. It's still MGTOW though. Well, Ethiopians have a very, very strong religious culture. If they're not heavily Christian, they're heavily Islamic, and they have a very, very strong religious culture, and it's a very, very patriarchal culture. In Ethiopia. So that's the same thing that goes on in Brazil. Since it's a very strong patriarchal culture, uh, women in the family still enforce that. So that's what I was talking about. In Africa, it's not that women are different. They're different. It's that it's the culture that they came from is the culture that they came from enforces that imperative that because it's frowned upon. Breaking up a family is frowned upon in Africa because a woman's womb doesn't belong to her. Her sex belongs to her, her orgasm belongs to her, but her womb belongs to the family on both sides. That's how come you have to, in Africa, you got to pay for that womb. Okay, when you give a dowry, you're paying that family for the loss of her womb because that womb belongs to you, and she doesn't, and any offspring that comes out of that woman belongs to both families. Management of our sexual appetite and urges is key. We're socialized to do the exact opposite. Yeah, we are kind of pushed into giving into those desires, but those desires are there anyway. But the thing is, just like we're pushed into fast food, we're pushed into TV and social media and whatever else that the Western urban setting actually pushes us into. Is to excess. So naturally, we're tapped into basically doing that and giving into it, and women are too. Women are pushed into it too, and women are actually using sex as a shortcut to intimacy. In other words, if you think about it, before for a woman to qualify, back when because I'm an older guy, and back when I was a young man, how a woman proved to you that she was worthy of you keeping her around and you taking her out is she would cook for you. She would actually come to your apartment and she was actually clean. She would prove that, okay, how I prove that my worth to you is coming over and proving that I can do a wifely chore. I'm going to cook for you. I'm going to clean your house. Or clean your apartment. Wash your clothes. See, they would actually do that to prove to you that she could be a valuable girlfriend. Now it's just about, and sex was just the cherry on the top, but it wasn't the whole cake. We're destroyed as a people at this point. Desperate measures are warranted. This isn't time to push the reset button, I don't know what is. The thing is, you can't push the reset button because what's going on with us is bigger than actually us as a people. It's the human race altogether because it's happening to everybody. Women are only human in appearance and in their mind closer to animal. Oh. They have okay. Well, I might have to put my esoteric wisdom series onto this channel because it's on my MGTOW channel. But it's the dynamic between male and female, women being dark matter, or basically that wild, untamed force, and men being a force of light. Basically, we foster change, and women are basically the material. But that's something that we can discuss at another time. Maybe it's probably better if I talk about that kind of stuff. If I do a hangout where everybody can call in and we can chop it up. This is just an off the cuff kind of like an experiment to see how basically for me to test this as a as a live stream. The reset. The thing is, the reset button is going to be pushed, but it's not going to be pushed by us. The reset button is the fourth industrial revolution. If you go on my channel, look up the fourth industrial revolution. And if you read the book called The Singularity is Near, because that's where we're headed, and that's going to be the reset button. That's the button. That's a reset button that nobody knows is what's going to happen. Like a lot of things are going to get released. Like They've been holding back the male contraceptive, which is what they call a Vasogel. But Vasogel has been around for 20 years. It was invented in India. They're just updating it and getting it past the United States so that men will have a contraceptive. That's going to be a game changer. I don't know. Women are complaining now. What's going to happen when men can decide deny them their semen? I recently subbed to Sarge WP. What do you think about his idea of patriarchy? Patriarchy, matriarchy, I think in 10 years is going to be dead. I think the patriarchy, as soon as you separated human production from human labor, that started killing the patriarchy way back then, because patriarchy is tied to male labor. And if you're starting to kill male labor, and you putting it over the machine, putting machines in place of it, what's going to happen to the patriarchy? Those kind of instruments, because that's all marriage is an instrument. It's not. It's nothing in nature, because animals don't get married. They mate, but they don't get married. It's a human instrument that you put together so that you could tie a male's labor to a woman to raise children. That's what marriage is for. If you go back and look at the Jawa tribe of in Indonesia, whose culture goes back some 60,000 years, they should have a form of marriage. It's not, it's not marriage like we would do. That's basically the tribe takes a man, it takes a woman that's about 14 years, in her, just coming into her own as far as sexual reproduction, and they pair them off. He said, okay, this is the woman that you're going to take, and vice versa. And this is the woman that you're going to produce children through, and you're going to provide her provision and labor. We don't have a future. Of course, everybody has a future. The thing is, what is the future going to look like? Nobody knows. Even the rich people don't know what the future is going to look like. Letting it burns means letting my babies burn. That's heartbreaking for me. I love those little knuckleheads. No, the thing is, I don't think anything's going to burn. Let's. Can I be truthful for a second? If you guys, because a lot of times I talk about this, and I've talked about this elsewhere. I've never done this on a channel because it's negative, but most people don't know what they're talking about when they're talking about let it burn. Okay. Before the industrial revolution, you never had more than 400 or 500 million people. I mean, max 400 or 500 million people worldwide across the globe. Never, ever you had more than that many people. You probably had close to like 200 million people. So basically, in its natural state, the globe can only handle 200 million people. You're at close to 8 billion people now. So that means that if the current structure as it stands, okay, and this is estimates, that I've done, and I've heard other economists, world economists, say the same thing. If the estimates as it stands, if this collapses, you're going to lose within 5 years. You're going to lose 40% of the world population. I mean, just in 5 years. So the thing is, what will it look like? A lot of people are going to die if it collapses, and that's why I don't think it's going to die. We might not have a future, but I still don't want those little crumb snatchers to get totally assed out. The thing is, it's out of your hands. There's nothing that you can do. There's nothing that you can do. Well, it's not going to be a purge. The thing is, it's going to be what they call it. It's a die-off. Just like if, say, like an animal herd gets too big and all of a sudden they overgraze the land, what happens? It's not a purge, it's a die-off. Only the very strong and the very lucky actually live. So if this global economy that we're in actually collapses, there's a systemic collapse, you're going to lose at least 40% of your people. So in other words, you take 40%, you're going to lose at least 3 billion people off the globe within 5 years. They're just actually going to be killed because of the carnage, or they're going to starve to death. Most likely they'll starve to death because you cut off you basically cut off the means of feeding folks, fuel, electricity, farms, all the ways that we get our food to people, and the structure. Oh no, it's not collapsing. The thing is, what you're having is a reset because um, you're still producing more people. You haven't collapsed. People are still eating. The thing is that the governments are coming in and basically they're borrowing against the future to actually feed people. If you could be, prepping is fine, but the thing is, unless you're in some isolated spot where you're growing your own food and you're cut off from civilization, prepping really is not going to do you a whole lot of good. Um, Prepping is only a short stop. Prepping, because I've talked to, because back 20, 25 years ago, we were talking about prepping and talking about preparing. And they say if you're a prepper, you need two things. Or you need enough money and provisions to survive in the short term. And then the second thing is you need an exit plan, because prepping is no good for a long term survival, because especially in a large country like the United States, or a large space like Europe, because hungry people will walk, and hungry people sooner or later are going to find you, and you can't kill enough of them. So prepping is only a short-term solution. Well, the thing is, if there's a reset, it doesn't matter. Only the lucky are going to survive. It's not a weak must die. It's going to be, you can be as strong as you want. You can be smart and strong, but if you're in the middle of a city, what's going to happen? You can't get out of it. No, it is on. Well, the thing is it is on it is on artificial life support, and the thing is, what's happening is you're having two parallel systems, and basically you have a system that is declining or decaying, and you have a system that's trying to be rebuilt as parallel to it, which is what the Chinese and the Russians are trying to do. Basically, the BRIC countries are trying to build a parallel system, while the Western system is decaying. The thing is, will they be able to build it in time? Nobody knows that question. Um, there's tons of there's tons of alternative forms of energy, because this stuff has been worked out a long time ago. Geothermic, solar, what is it called? Ocean, using ocean currents for electricity. In fact, they have a scale model. I think is it the Netherlands, or I can't remember what European country built it, where they actually put a wave generator out there in the ocean to generate electricity for the country. Um, well, the thing is, as long as you're not in Chicago, you're good. That's true to a point. The thing is that if you say like I'm in Los Angeles, and we got in the area, we got some total like 15 million people. 15 million people are not going to stay in Los Angeles and die. They're gonna get in their cars, bicycles, motorcycles, whatever they can. They're going to the countryside, and they're gonna ride as fast and as far as they can until they find food. And if you have food and they got guns and you don't have enough guns, guess what's gonna happen? They're gonna take yours, or they're gonna keep attacking you till they take yours. Japan has been using some geothermal. They've been using some solar, but the thing is, Japan was basically built on nuclear plants. That's how come they're having a problem. Um, well, the thing is, you can use, if you using you can use geothermal for 200,000 years, but the thing is, will it scale to the necessary point that you can actually use it to maintain the civilization that you have? And that's always the question. They have technologies now. They do have technologies. The thing is, can they ramp them up fast enough to replace the technologies that they're dying that are dying? Um, the biggest push in saving fuel, just oil and whatnot, is basically replacing the incandescent bulb. Um. Yeah. Well, this. I don't know if this is the channel to bring up the BRICS, because my circle has been studying the BRICS since basically 2003. So that would be like 13 years, and their rise is extremely interesting. Is extremely interesting, but this is probably not the channel to go to actually talk to it on, because it's really really complex how it rise. But um, basically what happened is how the BRICS and how that all that stuff came about, as far as that the global South. Well, Mao had predicted it would happen back in 1976. That's how the third world actually came up, and and basically what happened was the fall of the Soviet Union, and actually purported that, because China had a lot of technology, because they became the manufacturing base of the world for Western manufacturers. But the thing is, they didn't have any way to protect themselves. But the fall of the Soviet Union uh, uh, kind of helped them out, because it was Chinese money that propped Soviet Union or Russia back up, and that brought their defense. And those two, I call them the master blaster. Muscle. Russia has the muscle. China has the brains, and basically those two people together with manufacturing might, money, and technology, along with muscle, which is military, basically propped them together, and they were able to form these groups with India and Brazil, and South Africa was the latest one. But I think they were the formation of the BRICS, and they were able to uh, contend with the West. That's what your Iraq wars. Your Iraq wars were not uh, about oil in the Middle East. The Iraq war was about controlling China. Even the first Gulf War was about controlling China, because the Gulf War came about after the repression of democracy, so-called democracy in China. The Color Revolution didn't work. I think it was 1988, if I'm not mistaken. I think it was 1988 or 89. That whereas you had the Chinese come in and crush the democratic revolution and democratic protest, and then right after that you got the first Iraq War, the first Gulf War. Caucasian can't survive in the Amazon. When chaos breaks out, they will be slaughtered. I think eventually. I think what's going to happen with the white folks and Caucasian. This is just my guess. Eventually, because their numbers their demographics are declining, so eventually, I think most white people from European descent will actually go back to the confines of Europe. Eventually, I'm not saying how long that will happen, but I think the majority of white people will actually go back to Europe, or they were going to get bred out. You know, Australia is another one that's a little different, because it's so isolated and so barren. But if you look at South America, if you even look at the United States or North America, the indigenous people, which they call the Mexican or the Spanish people, they're actually indigenous Indians, will eventually come in, and they will eventually breed them out. So it's similar to what's going on in Europe right now, where they're getting bred out by the Middle Eastern Semites. Uh, I don't, I think this kind of thing has been going back and forth for over the fair amount of like 3,000 years, starting with the Phoenicians and the Romans and the Greeks. So I think this little Mediterranean tete-a-tete has been going back and forth for at least 3,000 years, and I think this is just the latest shift. It's been a 500-year shift, so now it's starting to shift back, and we'll see how it works out. But the thing is, what's going to change if we survive it? I'm not saying that we'll survive it. If the what they call it, the cultural singularity, or the singularity actually hits, then it won't matter what color you are, because you'll be able to change your genome pretty much at will. So what a baby looks like when he's born, with color and all those other attributes that we attribute with race, won't matter, because you'll be able to change the human genome and be so a baby can be. You can basically design a baby to be blonde hair, white skin, and blue eyes coming from black parents, or the exact opposite. You'll be able to design that baby. I don't think it'll matter. So as far as race is concerned, um, I don't think race is going to be very fluid. I would say in the next 25 years, even Africa will not be the land of black people anymore, because you're going to have, in my estimation, you're going to have 200 to 300 million Chinese moving from the mainland China. If not, if basically if the shift does, if there's no shift and the trends keep up, you're basically going to have a lot of ethnic Chinese or mixed Chinese in Africa. You won't have the pure African blood anymore. You're going to have a lot of Asian mixed in with continental Africans. And so, do you think that government stepped out of the black community with government hands out, that it can improve? Uh, yes and no. Will it improve? No, because if you pulled it out now and they're still living in the urban community, no, it would get worse. People that we would have a die off. What needs to happen is, especially with black people, you have to change. You have to change the environment. Culture is very, very controlled and tied to the environment. Your culture will change if you move into the environment. Moynihan put that out. Black people are responding no differently than European immigrants coming into New York or Chicago. If you look at the movie The Gangs of New York, you had the exact same thing. You didn't have any difference, and Moynihan pointed that out. So it's not, the culture has something to do with it, because I think because of our African culture, we're a little more susceptible to it than urban, but I think if you have black people move out of the urban centers, you have a lot better income. And so you don't think black people are also indigenous, original here to the Americas too? You know what? I don't have enough proof about that. Everything I've seen in genetics say the majority of black people are come from the continent. I don't know if you can trust it, because I'm not a geneticist. I haven't seen the test. They could be lying, but I would have. What I've seen, what I've learned over the last 30 years, I would say no. There are some, yeah, but it's a small percentage. Black people are all over the world. There's only two type of people. People have been adapted, but the thing is, there's basically two type of human beings, and those are, you're either pygmy or bushman, and that has nothing to do with what your size is, your build, because your Samoans are huge people, and they average about well over 6 feet tall, and they average close to 300 pounds. But the thing is, their culture and their basic genetics come from pygmies or Twa people, because they have that broad broad mix section. So even though if you scaled if you scale down a Samoan, he would look like a Filipino. If you scale the Filipino down, he will basically look like a Twa. They're very itty bitty people. And if you have very long legs and long arms, basically you're a bushman. Even though bushmen are very small on the continent, they're small. But the thing is, if their environment allows them to grow taller and bigger, and naturally select, they come out as 7-footers. So basically, you only have two types of Homo sapiens sapiens. Now you do have a mixture. They have found a mixture of Neanderthal in Asians and white people. So there is like a 1% mix that gives them with Europeans and Asians that are Neanderthal. Blacks adapted to Hawaii. They weren't bred out. They were adapted to Hawaii. The original people on those islands, the original people in the Philippines and Australia, they're black. If you go look off the Indonesian islands, they still have black people there. The Jawa people have been there's African people that have been in that on that Indonesian island cut off for 70,000 years. They've actually they've traced that DNA. In other words, even though the language structure of Asians are tied directly to those people. Oldest on Earth. The thing is, if the human beings go back 2 million years, you don't know who's the oldest on Earth. They're the oldest. Are they the oldest living people on Earth? Well, yeah, because there are no other human beings except Homo sapiens sapiens. They're just a different. They're just a different breed. They're like dogs. Dogs still breed. Like Neanderthals were their different breed. They weren't basically a different species. You can't mate cross species. So in other words, if you bred out Neanderthals, they have to be human beings. They're just a different breed. Yeah, I know a lot of Filipino people, and if you've ever been seen indigenous Africans, um, you look at them and you take away the color, or you see indigenous Africans, you see indigenous Indians. Like say you go to Central America where the Mayan are still Mayan, and they still exist even though the civilization was destroyed or collapsed. Mayans are still there. If you look at them, they're all built the same. They're all built the same. They have different hair texture, different skin color, but if you looked at their body structure, they're built exactly the same. A Filipino, he looks exactly like a Mayan, and a Mayan looks, a small Filipino looks exactly like a Twa. They're just different colors and different hair textures, but they are built exactly the same. They're, yeah, I wasn't gonna be on this long, and it's been an hour, and it was just a test, and I'm happy y'all stopped in and asked me some good questions and chatted it up a little bit. I might try a hangout next time so you guys can actually call in and we can have a dialogue rather than me talking at the mic. Um, but this is an experiment. You guys can hit me up and see how you like this format, or whether hangout would be better. I might try an open hangout. The only problem with open hangouts, you get trolls and you can get some negative comments. But I think my subscriber list is so small. I don't think people will notice. I don't think the trolls will come bother us. So next time I might try an open hangout. Um, Maybe on in the evenings or something like that, with the time that's good for folks. But this is just an experiment. So I'm getting ready to cut off the stream, and you guys can kind of go to sleep. I know in Europe, I don't know. I think you guys got to go to work, right? And I know on the East Coast, everybody has to go to sleep. So, and it's midnight here, so I'm gonna cut off the stream. And uh, I've never, I'm not one to basically talk to myself, So me chatting on open air and without feedback is difficult for me. So the thing is, you guys asking questions does help. Well, I would have sent out a notification. I will send out a notification, and I'll send out a notification so that everybody will know when it's going to happen. But like I said, this was just a test because I'm trying out some software and trying to find out the ins and outs of how this thing actually works. But I'm glad you guys noticed, and I'm glad I was wondering if anybody was going to find it and actually join in. And I'm glad you guys did. So next time I will send out a notification. What do you guys prefer, the live stream, or you guys would prefer Hangout? Just asking a question. Okay, we got one for Hangout. Okay, got two for Hangout. Yeah, I'll try. I'll try an open Hangout. I'll paste the link in the. I'll paste the link in the description, and and see who calls in. What's a good time for everybody? Just asking a question. It's like it's midnight here, so I guess for the East Coast folks, I guess will be 7 p.m. or 10 p.m. for East Coast folks. I don't know what it'd be like for European people. I don't think I have that many European people. Uh, I think most black folks are on the East Coast or the Midwest. So I guess a good hangout time would be about 7 p.m. or 9 p.m. It'll be a good time. West Side Seattle. Okay. Yeah, I think that's a good mid range. I think give people time to be off work and just before people go to bed, hang out for maybe an hour and a half, and we can chop it up and get some direct feedback. A lot of stuff. A lot of stuff I don't put up on the channel because I don't really mix economics, political, and what I call social. A lot of stuff on Ibmore is more social because I find out that a lot of our ills stem from basically the gender dynamics and the basically the pathology and the gender dynamics spread into the children and spreads into the community, and we get a lot of this craziness that gets spread from generation to generation and never gets cleaned up. And that's what Moynihan was trying to do. He said to bring the black woman back to the family, you're going to have to put the men to work. And basically what the civil rights movement was supposed to do, it wasn't supposed to be about welfare. It's basically supposed to be a jobs program to put black men to work. It said if you put black men to work, the women will come back and they can hold the family together. If they hold the family together, they can be integrated into the collective, and they can be integrated in the collective that will solve a lot of the ills that you see in the urban landscape, and that would basically eliminate what they call the problem of the color line, or what they call the black problem. Oh, thanks. I'm just putting stuff out there. I'm hoping to put things out there to where people can actually pick up on it, some of my insight, and actually use it. I see a lot of white producers actually take my insight and actually use it, which is on the other side, off social media, my group, we put a lot of things out into the into the black community as far as insight. And we have a lot of white people, if actually more than white people, Russian and Chinese, actually use that insight. So basically, that's all I'm doing. Because me and my group, we're good at analyzing things and making connections. Okay, and if we make connections to where people they haven't put those two things together, they can actually use it. So hopefully, what my content is about is that, what I'd rather not say. I'd rather not say, because for me to put this out over Ibmore channel or even a MGTOW channel will reflect badly on them. And they have a lot of their things are community based. They deal with a lot of women. They deal with a lot of international people. And for me to put my name out, I don't really care as far as, because I'm a private citizen. I don't really care personally. But the thing is, they do a lot of work that's on the outside. And if I put my name out, then I get associated. They can attack those folks, and that's something that, that's not what I want. Even here in Los Angeles, I do work with a female, and I do work with a lot of people. And the thing is, for me to put my name out and they associate my name with those people, then they'll get the female backlash. And the thing is, they do a lot of good work, and I don't want their work to be interrupted because of my opinion on YouTube. So I don't like to give out my name. So that's the only reason. Other than that, Other than that, I would love. In fact, if I put my name out, I put my name, my face on camera and whatnot, I would have a lot more subscribers. I probably could even monetize, my tube. But the thing is, to do that, I would be killing what they do, and I don't want to do that. So the thing is, what I do is I try to bring the expertise that I've gotten from being in my group, part of my group that do a lot of stuff. Do a lot. I mean, they do a lot of stuff locally, do a lot of stuff internationally, a lot of stuff. You know, there's a lot of stuff. We got a lot of people that travel back and forth to the continent to do a lot of things that are attributed with a lot of people that heads the state. Uh, uh, a lot of people take the information that we gather in my other group and they actually use it. Like they're you know the like just one particular key we're talking about. And I'll give it this to because this is a black group. As far as reparations, we could just talk about that for before you guys go sleep. Maybe about 5 minutes before I cut off the stream. Reparation has been a sticky problem, and anybody that's in the United States been associated with black folks or black community has been talking about reparations. The thing is, why is it so sticky? How come we can't get it? And the thing about reparations is always been power. Yeah, guilt by association. That's what our group is controversial enough. And I'm probably the most controversial member of that particular group. And the thing is, I have to tamp down what I say and what I put out, especially when it goes to social things like females and what's wrong with the black community. I have to tamp that down because it's going to reflect badly on them. And that they have to raise funds and they have to bring together communities so that we can get things done. You can't get things done if women are sensitive and women don't take criticism well. And if and basically even on this YouTube channel, very seldom do I really come out and I actually open up both barrels on women. I'm basically hitting black women with a squirt gun right now. Okay. I'm not really doing them in. I'm hitting them with a squirt gun. You might hear me hint at this or hint at that. But I'm not like Tommy Sotomayor where I'm hitting them with both barrels. I don't really do that. But anyway, I'm gonna talk about reparations. Reparations is the power dynamic. But basically, reparations are normally forced by a more powerful entity onto a weaker entity. And the thing is, without power, you can't get reparations from. On two ways you can get reparations from a government. Either you have more power or leverage to get it from them, or that it's in their best interest to do so for you, and it's not in their best interest to do so for black people. So that we have been trying to persuade them that it's in their best interest to basically give us reparations for our slavery experience. Okay, that hasn't happened because there's no incentive it's not worth it for them to actually do it. The thing is, if you have leverage. Now, separately, 50 million black people in the United States or 40 million black people in the United States can't do much against 300 and some odd million people. Can't force them to do shit. But the thing is, if you combine the diaspora, if you combine the Caribbean, the Brazilian, and the African, which is like 1.5 billion people, now you have a big enough leverage stake to actually force it. Well, they have to give you something because it's in their best interest to do so. So the thing is, how do you link up, 1.2 billion African people across some 60 different countries? It's very difficult. But if you can do that and you have resources in Africa that they desperately need, you can leverage. You can actually leverage some money. You can actually leverage some reparations. And what I suggested is that you combine all these 60 different groups, you put them together, you ask for a humongous amount of money. In other words, here in the United States, I think the max we ask for is like I would say in the order between 50 and $100 billion. I think that's the amount of money that they're talking about. But the thing is, if you take 1.2 billion Africans in the diaspora, black people in the diaspora spread across 60 countries, and where a lot of your resources lay in Africa, and you put economic pressure on them, then you have a chance to ask for a lot more. So I would say we have what they call a class action suit against the United States, and say we don't want $100 billion or $50 billion for black folks in America. We want We want at least $3 trillion, and they want to spread out across 60, the 1.2 billion people in a manner of debt forgiveness, technology, training, and then aid. In other words, jobs programs, putting people to work, repairing, not necessarily repairing communities or giving people that want to start different countries or different groups someplace else. Basically, you're training and financing them to actually go, to go there and actually start their own thing. And I would say, $100 billion is peanuts, but if you get $2 or $3 trillion, you can help a whole lot of people. Help a whole lot of people, and you can actually put a whole lot of people to work, and that's real reparations. That's doable because the United States and Western Europe has that kind of money, and in the long, in the short term it would hurt them, but in the long term, it would get rid of a lot of the ills that they pay for. Because if you add up what they pay for police and prison and welfare and that kind of stuff from the strife going back and forth. They're probably spending that in the matter. They would spend that in the matter of 5 to 10 years anyway. So to a one-time cash payment of like $3 trillion spread out in leverage programs and say this is it. Now there's no more welfare or anything like that. You're on your own. I think that would benefit both sides. That's just my idea. But I'm gonna let you guys go to sleep, and I'm gonna cut off the stream, and I'm gonna. See you guys the next time. I'm thinking about putting something up. 2 series I want to put up. Maybe even a third, but there's two that I want to put up on the IBMOR. One is, like I said, my Black Fukushima, talking about black women, and the second thing will be something more fun, which is the PUAs, the pickup artists have been attacking MGTOW and talking crap about MGTOW for a long time. So what I want to do is a slightly older guy, bring some old guy wisdom to the PUAs, because I think the pickup artists, they don't do it right. So basically it'd be an IBMOR and a MGTOW basically teaching, giving some pickup lines or some pickup critique to pickup artists. In other words, do to them what they've been doing to us. But those are 2 things that you guys might want to look for. I don't know when they're going to come out. I got some material behind it, but I haven't put it all together. So basically look for it. Okay. I can't wait. All right, you guys. I'm it's been almost an hour and a half. So I've been getting kind of long. When I thought I was only going to be on for like 20 minutes, but I'll talk to you guys later.